Hi, I'm Maille. I am a writer, director, and podcaster. When I was a little kid, when I was 5 years old, I watched Jaws, and there was two VHSs with it. It was the movie and then a second tape. And I thought the second tape would be the second movie, but it was the making of Jaws, and I was like, that looks like a very interesting job. I would like to do that. And from that point forward, I was self-teaching myself, like from like that point forward, and in high school, I met these kids and we created like this like sketch comedy production company thing, which we did for a few years, and that's kind of where I learned how to do this and like edit and like write and frame shots and act and everything. I didn't get a formal education at college or anything. The first thing I ever did was a short film called The Gnome, which me and two other friends, we completely improv. I'll set up a shot and then whatever we come up with, that's what we're gonna do. And it's very cringe to go back and watch now, but I definitely learned like the basics of like framing and like pacing and all that, and like how to like work with like actors to get like a desired result that way. But I mean, the film itself is a little cringe. Nihilist Media is a company started by my good friend Colin Russo. He started it like right before we met, and he's always been into very dark nihilistic films and literature, and he feels like in modern day that's kind of underrepresented in modern film, where it doesn't have like the 70s grit anymore. And I agree with him. I met Colin through my friend Josh. They went to college together. They went to Fitchburg State, and Colin was good friends with Josh, and he was looking for a film to launch his production company, Nihilist Media, with. And I, at that time, had just written in a Fury a short film called "You're on the Air," and Josh was like, "Oh, that's so Colin." So he sent it to Colin, and Colin was like, "Oh, I'm going to direct that," and I said, "Absolutely not." And then me and him like formed a very, very close friendship after that. We were like been nearly inseparable for like years now. Yeah, I can't see myself working on a film without Colin at this point, because he's a great anchor. He's like the best producer I've ever worked with, and he's just a great guy. The stories I'm interested in telling as a filmmaker are stories about like anti-heroes and like almost amoral characters. Like, I like doing unlikable characters, kind of like Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver or something. I'm more focused on characters than plot, which I know that a lot of my films have like kind of thin plots where it's like, oh, it's like a basic thing, and then it's more about the character. I like seeing someone who is like a product of their environment, and I think that this thing is more interesting to write about as like as a creative person, because it's just like an unlikable character will instantly give you conflict, so it makes it easier, I guess. A common theme in my work is guilt, and because I think that it's a common emotion that everyone feels. I think everyone feels like, or not guilt, but more regret about something they've maybe done in the past or whatever. It's like, I think that's like my common theme is this guilt, because I think that it's like something that everyone feels, and it's something that everyone can relate to. It also creates good conflict, I guess. The reason why I mostly use black and white in a lot of my films is because I learned very quickly that if you're doing an ultra low budget film, like you don't have any money, it's hard to make color theory work. And you know, with color, to make it look good, you have to use a lot more lighting than you do with black and white. With like, for example, Thankless was shot with two lights, the lamp and an extra light. Everything else, there's nothing else. It's just easier for when you're doing something this low budget to just do it in black and white, because I think everything looks better, or not everything looks better in black and white, but black and white hides your flaws, because it's like, oh, like the background, like the set doesn't look exactly like how I imagined it. Well, put it in the shadows. Don't look at it. My main influence is definitely Martin Scorsese, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Greta Gerwig to an extent. And I like the Coen brothers a lot, the Safdie brothers. I like that their films always have these characters with different moralities, and it never feels like the film is judging their characters. It's just letting the characters be, and it's almost like you're for a brief moment in time, you're going to dive into someone else's mindset that's completely different from your own. And I think that's always like a fascinating thing, because like you would never do anything that these people like show in films, but like there are people out there who are like that, and it's always fascinating to get into like their psyche and try to figure out why are they like that, you know? So instant gratification was this our first stab at trying to do a documentary, and we were very good friends with Cornersoul. We heard that they were doing a album release party show. They were going to play the entire album plus their hits, and I was like, that sounds great. And me, Colin, and my good friend Josh Sullivan, we decided to just get 3 cameras and set it up, and it was the most hectic film experience I've ever had, because there was like a giant like mosh pit. I don't know if you've ever been to a Cornersoul show, but their fan base is very dedicated and like very hype. So while you're trying to set up this perfect shot of like a guitar solo, you'll have like 4 people like jumping on your back, just like so into it, and it's great. You know, like it's a phenomenal atmosphere, and yeah, no, it was just me and Colin have also been like huge fans of like music. We're like, we love like punk rock. I used to be in like punk bands and stuff, and like riot grrrl bands, and we've always wanted to like document like the local scenes in Massachusetts, because I think it's just very under like documented, and like there's some great bands out there. I've been doing podcasting for a couple of years now. I've always wanted to do podcasts, but I've never had people willing to co-host them with me, because I feel like me just talking would be insufferable. But I started my first podcast with Colin. We did like a little experiment, and we started this podcast called The Monday Night War, which is a pro wrestling podcast about the war between WCW and WWF in the 90s. But then I got more ambitious with it, and I started doing stuff like Batty for Batman with Colin, which unfortunately isn't continuing. And then me and my friend Nicholas Campbell have done this show, Bonding with Bond, which I've been very excited about, where me and him have been watching every single James Bond movie in chronological order and going in depth about why it's either very good or very awful. And if it's bad, we try rewriting the films ourselves. And then I host a Let's Play show called 296, where me and my friend Tyler, my friend Jacob, and my friend Richard play every N64 game and attempt to beat it, but usually give up halfway through. An issue that's really important to me within like my storytelling is usually kind of like manipulation, or like media manipulation in terms. Like it's not really that prevalent in my short films, other than You're on the Air, but in other things that I've written, like other short stories or other features that I plan on making, there's always a lot of this thing of like, what can you believe from like these like, I think there's like a thing that I've noticed over the years, where you'll have like these figures you look up to, and then you'll find out that they're the worst people you've ever there are those monsters out there that like portray themselves as like these benevolent forces, and it's hard to navigate sometimes, like who to trust and who not to trust. And I think that's an issue that comes up in my work. I think there's always a struggle with any film or creative project that someone works on. I've had many problems on my films where it's just like, oh, someone forgot to get the prop, an actor quit the night before, or someone doesn't learn their lines, and it's always a struggle. But I think like, because film is such a collaborative effort, like you have a crew who's just as dedicated as you are to fix the problem and help whenever they need, wherever you need. So if someone needs to run to like Home Depot to grab something and make a prop out of it, like they're gonna do that. Or if like an actor quits, like another actor is gonna be like, oh, I know this guy, let's get him. Like no matter, like yeah, there's always that moment where you're filming something and everything's going wrong, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But then you see the end product, and if you're happy with it, you're like, oh yeah, I can. It's worth it. Like I think it's true that an artist does have to suffer for his art, because like the making of art is always difficult. Because film takes forever, it also like it's hard to create like a brand around that, because you're not actively selling something constantly. Whereas like music and modeling and like painting, like you can do that more consistently than you can with film. Like film, like you spend like 3 months of your life working on this thing, and then it drops, and then you have to like develop another thing for the next 6 months. Whereas an album, you can do like drop one like every once in a while, and then like a single, you know, it's more, it's easy to brand yourself that way. Whereas with film, I don't know, I think it's harder. I mean, there's always economic pressures when making art because like you want to spend so much time creating your vision and making it perfect, but you also like you have to pay the bills. You have to pay like your car insurance, your health insurance, and like you have to, eat. And like it's great being the starving artist, but there comes a point where, especially with filmmaking, like because it's such a team, you also have the economic pressure of having to pay your crew, you have to pay your DP, you have to pay your camera assistants, your assistant director, your producer, your actors. I feel like when you pay someone, it gives them more of an incentive because they're like, oh, I'm getting paid to do what I love. It gives them an incentive to work even harder than like, oh, this is just my passion, if that makes sense. Most art scenes are very cliquey, and you have to kind of navigate through like these different cliques to like become accepted enough to be like, all right, like someone from that clique will work with you, or maybe they'll bring you into that clique, or like, it's like it's hard. It's like because like filmmaking is also like building a family, and so like the clique is necessary, but it does make it hard because there are people who will like, oh, I will only work with these type of people, or like I'll only work on this type of project. So it's hard to like get people to be invested in your vision when you're not like someone like they went to school with or whatever. And there's definitely a discrepancy with success amongst local artists. I think that certain people just don't get taken seriously. I think that I've noticed it a lot with like female directors where they do not get any type of acceptance, or like they have to like grind so hard, and advertise themselves so hard to get even in a film festival. And I think it's really messed up. Lowell's very different from an artist's point of view because it's very welcoming, but whereas like going to like Boston, it's like everyone there is trying to do the same thing as you are, so it's more like competition. Where I think Lowell has a more diverse roster of artists where everyone's doing like a completely different thing. But I do think that the danger of that is it does kind of create like an echo chamber in Lowell where it's just like, because everyone's like there to support each other no matter what the project is. And I think that that's kind of like a dangerous thing that I don't think people talk about, because like I feel like people need to push that comfort zone out of Lowell, but I think Lowell is still like a great place to like become an artist. I would love to see Lowell grow. I would love to see Lowell become like have more outlets for artists, like more like venues for bands to play and places where they can like sustain themselves. And I would like to see like the local theaters highlight local filmmakers, and like have like start having like local film festivals and just showing like, really highlighting the people of the city. My advice is prepare a lot, because if you don't prepare, you're gonna watch your film later and be just miserable because you're like, oh, I should have thought about this. The other thing is like go out and make it, and find someone who you can creatively bounce ideas off of to keep you in check, but also never. I think also the most important thing is never compromise on your vision, because it will eat you up inside in the end. And I think that if you stick to your guns, no matter how the film turns out, you'll be proud of it.